welcome to another edition of the program, The Papers on Canal de English. I'm very happy to be your host once again this morning. On the papers, we look at what the local newspapers in Cameroon caption on, what they focus on, and in the second part of the program, we analyze the contents with our guest in the studios. We unveil the papers this morning with La Nouvelle Expression, which captions on the crisis at the Cameroon football governing body, focues, saying the Minister of Sports and Physical Education, Bidung Part, saves foot boss Tombi Aroko. Details on the story says the minister annulled the decision taken by the Arbitration and Conciliation Chamber of the National Olympic and Sports Committee, which cancelled the elections which saw the coming to power of Tombi Aroko as foot boss. You can read more on page 3 of La Nouvelle Expression, today's edition, to quench your thirst. On page 2, the La Nouvelle Expression captions on insecurity in the town of Chang. Details on the story says the thousands of university students fled the town of Chang because of the prevailing security problem in that part of the country. You can read more on page 3 of the paper this morning. We stay with La Nouvelle Expression this morning, which captions on the University of Marwa. The paper says students of the University of Marwa stormed the governor's residence recently. The paper says the disgruntled students were questioning why their names did not feature on the list of students to benefit from the award of excellence from the presidency of the Republic. We have news that these students were qualified for the reception of this prize, but their names never featured on the list. You can read more on page 9 of the paper this morning. Le Messager this morning captions on the foot saga, saying Minister Bidung Part maintains Tombi Aroko as a foot boss. Details on the story says that the government's decision silences the sentence of the Chamber of Arbitration and Conciliation of the National Olympic and Sports Committee of Cameroon, which cancelled the elections which made Tombi president of foot. You can read more on page 12 of the paper this morning. Another paper, L'Oeil du Sahel, this morning captions on insecurity in Cameroon, precisely in the Mayo Tanaga. The paper says Boko Haram kills 9 persons in Gol Davi. The details on page 12 of the paper publishes the list of victims and the circumstances leading to the attack. You can read more on page 12 of the paper this morning. The Post Weekend this morning captions on a very interesting story. The paper says Cameroon to expose corrupt officials November 25. Details on the story says the National Anti-Corruption Commission, CONAC, will render public some corrupt officials on Wednesday, November 25. Details on the story also says the occasion will be the launching of the report on the state of the fight against corruption in Cameroon in 2013. Sources at the CONAC headquarters in Yaoundé say the report is a telling document that does not only exposes acts of corruption but also names and shames corrupt officials in the country. The Special Criminal Court that is specialized in the prosecution of suspects who have allegedly embezzled state funds ranging from 50 million francs CFA will be given a copy of the report, the Post says this morning. We stay on the Post on page 2 that captions on another interesting story. This time around, the paper says chaos marks the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement FACO 3 reorganization. The details say insults and catcalls rented the air, punches fell on presumed opponents, and fisticuffs were exchanged, ballot boxes smashed, and the result was broken jaws, swollen mouths, blackened eyes, and supporters of Mayor Patrick Ekema Esunge stormed election grounds for the reorganization of the basic organs of the CPTM party. We now move to another interesting story, still on the Post, that captions on the paper says Cameroon imports 3 times what it exports. Details on the story says statistics contained in a document released by the Port Authority of Douala. Part indicates that Cameroon imports almost triple the quantity of products it exports. The story says the document comes to confirm the analysis that Cameroon's balance of trade has constantly been negative for several years, especially under the Biya regime. On page 6, the paper says Northwest, Southwest cheated in tarring of roads. The story says the Northwest has been presented as the region with the least number of kilometers of tarred roads in the country. According to the statistics from the Ministry of Public Works, of the 11,558 kilometers of road network in the region, only 277 kilometers are tarred. The remaining 10,266 are F roads. And the paper also says the second region with the least number of tarred roads is the Southwest. It has 44,809 kilometers of tarred roads out of the total of 6,803 of its network. Well, that is how we saw the first part of the program, the papers on Canal de English. We now move over to the second part of the program. We shall be focusing on the analysis of the contents with our guest in the studios. Our guest in the studios is Mr. Elie Smith. He shall be commenting on some important topics that caught the attention today. Well, let's now welcome our guest, Mr. Elie Smith. Good morning once more, Elie Smith.
Good morning.
Well, you are on board the program today again. We are very glad to have you as guest.
Exactly.
Now, what caught your attention on the papers today?
What caught my attention, first of all, is the saga that we have, is a kind of merry-go-round of problems we at the Cameroon Football Federation, yes, and also the strategy of CONAC to start naming and shaming those who have been indicted for corruption, which is a very good move.
Yes, let's now focus on this other story. Northwest, Southwest cheated in tarring of roads. We would like to come back to the statistics from the Ministry of Public Works. That indicates that out of the 11,589 kilometers of road network in the region, that is the Northwest region, only 2,277 kilometers have been tarred, and in the Southwest region, out of the 44,800 kilometers of road tarred, out only 6,803 has been tarred yet.
Yes.
These are disturbing statistics.
Very disturbing statistics indeed, because when we bring up these statistics, I think some people would like to tell us why focus on the Northwest and Southwest provinces. But we are forced to do it because this is an entity which before then had a number of tarred roads.
Yes.
But since 1961, we have seen that the number of macadamized roads in this part of the country has reduced drastically, which I think is a very good job they've done by that the Post. They have done very good, because it's always very good to bring out figures to challenge those who think that, well, we have been beneficial in this unification stuff. I think it's an indication that the Northwest and Southwest regions of this country are marginalized.
Yeah, so according to you, there is an Anglophone problem. That is because of the Anglophone problem. That's why roads have not been tarred.
Oh yes, there is an Anglophone problem, and one of it is that I think the Francophones in Yaoundé thought at a certain point in time that by underdeveloping the Northwest and Southwest regions of this country, it is going to act like a magnet. It will force or re-energize unity, which is wrong, or make Anglophones, because look at the strategy. At first, now I understand the road between Manfé and Kumba has been tarred, but that formally, what is this thing that if you are from the Southwest, you want to go to the Northwest, you must necessarily come down to the littoral before going, or come pass through the West Province before going there. I think the strategy was that they thought that doing so is going to encourage the guys from this part of the country to integrate more. On the contrary, when you deny these people development, you are trying to repel them. And the reality is that, I have said it here and I'm going to say it again, since 1961, this part of the country have been the losers in the unity of this country and development.
There is a school of thought that says that this move by not tarring roads or making the Northwest region and the Southwest region underdeveloped is an attempt to frustrate the Anglophone.
Sure, it's an attempt to frustrate the Anglophones, to show them that you are a conquered people, you don't deserve where you are, and to make them become mendicants. And that's the reason why I think most Anglophones seem to be subservient, because if you look at the reunification, we had industries based in the Southwest. Most of them were relocated to this part of the country, the eastern part of the country. Like Guinness Cameroon used to be in Victoria. We used to have the Cameroon National Producing Marketing Board in Kumba. All of them were taken from Kumba and brought in Douala. And all those countries brought, then ruined, and they went under lock and key. We had a Cameroon bank, ruined.
But must we blame the government for this? Because we know of contractors who have failed to deliver the goods. For example, let's cite the road from Babaju to Bamenda, that is currently under rehabilitation. The contractors never did a good job. So must we blame the government for this?
We can blame the government, and you are also right that we can also blame the contractors. The problem is this: why should you take a road which has been partly done? Yes, the contractor has a part of the blame, but those who are receiving the roads are also to be blamed, because if a road has been constructed, I think the lifespan of a road should be at least a decade. A good road should at least a decade. But you have roads that just last for 6 months or 1 year at most, and nobody says anything. It's because along the line, people are very corrupt. They are no longer patriotic, and that's the reason why we cannot always just blame the contractors. I think we should blame the central government of this country for what we are going through. Look at even the seaport of Victoria Olimbe. It has been under construction, I think, for 50 years. We have a track of road 120 kilometers from Kumba to Manfe. It has been under construction for almost 50 years today. It has not been finished. I think it's under construction. I would like to see the world architecture, the type of world standard road that is going to come out from it. But if it is going to just be these double-lane roads that we have, then I don't see why we should stay for almost 50 years to have 100 kilometers of road being macadamized.
Yes, another story that the papers focus today is that of CONAC to name and shame corrupt officials in the country. As a matter of fact, on November 25, the National Anti-Corruption Body will be calling the names of those who embezzled funds in Cameroon, calling them and naming them one by one.
Yeah, the naming and shaming strategy of CONAC is really very good thing, because now we are going to know the thieves of the Republic, and they're going to be exposed. Naming and shaming is one thing, but they should be punished. I think the prisons of Kondengi and New Bell and all the prisons of the country should be widely open their doors in order for all those who have been named and shamed should be carried over there to be sanctioned. But on the other hand, I think it should not be an opportunity for witch hunting. Those who are really corrupt, who have really embezzled, should be those whose name that have to feature in the list that will be produced. You know,
Elie, that this body, that is CONAC, has been called a toothless bulldog for quite some time now, because whatever they publish has no effect on...
Yes, it has no effect, this is true, but can you imagine if you have the list of those corrupt ministers that we know they are so corrupt today are published? Well, perhaps they might not be prosecuted, but the simple fact that we will know that the minister is a thief, the director general of a company is a thief, then I think it's going to change.
But do you believe in the statistics of this report? Where did they get the statistics from? We know it's difficult to access information in Cameroon. How did they arrive at this conclusion that Mr. Ex-Minister is a
corrupt?
Thief?
He's a thief. Like, for example, you don't need to come from London School of Economics or from Stanford. If your salary is, let's say, 500,000 francs, and when you go into your house, you see you have a mansion for 500 million, you have about one car that costs 60 million. Then you're
building skyscrapers.
Skyscrapers.
Yes.
Where did you get? You have to justify the source of your income. If what you possess cannot tally with what you earn annually or monthly, you must have something from somewhere, so you must be a thief. Or perhaps you are a miracle doer, operator of miracles.
Well, let's wait for November 25 to get the names of those who have been embezzling our funds.
Exactly.
Now, let's look at this other interesting story. The Chamber, that is the decision that was taken by the Chamber of Arbitration and Conciliation of the National Olympic and Sports Committee of Cameroon, annulling the elections that saw the appointment of Tom Biaroko as president of Fecafoot, has been cancelled by the Minister of Sports and Physical Education. We now ask this question: is the minister competent enough to take such a decision?
No, there is a problem. Perhaps my point of view is this, that if the Chambers of Arbitration is a judicial a segment, the question we have to ask ourselves is that, is the Chamber of Arbitration doing its job or within the authorized sphere of competence?
The minister actually said that they went beyond their jurisdiction, that they were not supposed to cancel elections.
Exactly. But now if the minister says that they have gone beyond their jurisdiction, then I think then the minister is right.
Yes.
But if it is wrong, because I think there are some people who are of the opinion that the Court of Arbitration did act according to its sphere of influence.
Yes.
In that case, the court of arbitration is correct, and the minister doesn't have the right to get involved in it, because there is something in this country, because we have to know how to decouple the executive from the judiciary.
Yes.
The judiciary should be independent. But from the way I seem to look at things, it appears as though the court of arbitration is part of the executive.
Don't you feel like the minister was right to come in and put some sanity in football in Cameroon? Because you know, Cameroon football has been suffering for quite some time now. And when you find the Lions performing very well during their first game, maybe there is new air, and then we are now talking about foot again. If there's crisis at the foot level, it's not going to affect the team. Don't you feel like the minister's decision is right? Now,
if you are tilting toward that direction, normally everybody will be okay with you, because the problem is that foot has been embroiled in a merry-go-round of problems, destabilization, disorganization that has had a negative impact on the performances of the Lions, or sports in general, football in particular in this country. For those who want some order, they think that for once, food is now organized, retool their strategy, and they want to start running. But the problem is that, was the procedure to elect Tombi Aroko in accordance with the rules of the Football Federation of the country? That's
another debate, Elie Smith. We want to thank you very much for your presence today on the platform.
Thank you very much, Lesley.
And we thank you out there for your kind attention. Let's take another rendezvous for tomorrow. Goodbye.